Chapter 15 of Nicholas, A Manhattan Christmas Story by Carroll Moore. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Heroes and Valentines. With the Heroes. Nicholas made many new friends after Christmas, and one of them was Jimmy Blair. Jimmy was a little Scotch boy whose heroes all came alive to him in the pictures he saw, the stories he heard, and the people he knew. Coming into the children's room of the public library one morning in February, Nicholas found Jimmy standing before a new picture of Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg.
"This picture is so sad. I feel like crying when I look at it,"
said Jimmy.
"But I like it because the people, the soldiers, the mothers, and the children are all in the picture with him."
"It's a wonderful picture, Jimmy. The painting it's taken from is in the state capital of Pennsylvania. I know the artist who painted it. Her name is Violet Oakley, and she lives near Philadelphia in a big studio made out of a barn, with an enormous fireplace and beautiful paintings on the walls. It's the highest studio I've ever seen. She climbs up on a stepladder to paint. I went to a lovely party there, and when I climbed up on her stepladder, I saw more of her paintings. Washington on his way to the Brandywine, and William Penn. I like Philadelphia. It's all in squares. I went inside of Independence Hall. Have you ever been there, Jimmy?"
Jimmy shook his head. He was still looking intently at the picture of Lincoln.
"He doesn't look like the French girl,"
he said at last.
"But that picture makes me remember the picture where she's crying."
Jimmy went over to the bookshelves, and taking down Joan d'Arc, he opened it to Boutet de Monvel's picture of Joan of Arc crossing the battlefield. This was Jimmy's favorite book. He never read it. Jimmy didn't care about reading at all. He liked to look at the pictures and let them tell the story of the wonderful French girl, as he called her.
"What are you going to be when you grow up, Jimmy?"
asked Nicholas.
"If there's a war, I'll be a soldier,"
said Jimmy.
"If there isn't a war, I'd like to be more than one kind of a man."
They had turned away from the pictures of Lincoln and Joan of Arc, and they were now looking at pictures of brave old saints and knights, soldiers and sailors, explorers and scientists, firemen and fishermen, engineers and bridge builders, deep-sea divers and miners, aviators and wireless men, doctors and nurses. For on Lincoln's birthday, and all throughout the month of February, heroes and heroines of all times and all countries are remembered in the children's room.
"What are you going to be yourself, Nicholas?"
asked Jimmy.
"I don't know yet,"
said Nicholas.
"Something that hasn't been done before. Let's take a bus up Riverside Drive, Jimmy, and see if Joan of Arc is still there. She may ride off across the river and up over the Palisades any night."
On Brooklyn Bridge. Between the birthdays of Lincoln and Washington, St. Valentine's Day came like a second Christmas to Murray Hill. The library lions looked out from under a fresh fall of snow. Tulips and daffodils and little bouquets with lace paper frills around them bloomed in the windows of the flower shops, and there were red and pink peppermint hearts at the mirror. The Duchess got out all her old valentines, the Happy Heart family appeared in the picture book room, and the postman brought heaps and heaps of letters, valentines, and poetry books. The most exciting letter of all was this one.
"The Neighborhood Playhouse, Grand Street, St. Valentine's Eve. Dear Nicholas, please be our Valentine and come to see the toy box in our theater. All the toys turn real and dance to lovely music. Your friends, the festival dancers. P.S. Bring Anne Carraway with you."
"I saw that pantomime one Christmas,"
said Anne Carraway.
"I'd love to see it again on St. Valentine's night."
"Couldn't we walk across Brooklyn Bridge before we go to the play?"
proposed Nicholas.
"It doesn't look very far from the neighborhood playhouse on my map."
So they rode down from Murray Hill, over the Bowery on the 3rd Avenue L, all the way to Brooklyn Bridge. Nicholas tried ever so many ways of getting on the bridge before he discovered the footpath, which begins under the dingy terminal station and leads up an incline straight out across the bridge of the magic web. And as they walked on over the river, with the seagulls flying above and below them, with the waters of the lower bay turning to silver in the sunlight, and the towers of Manhattan rising higher and higher in blue and purple haze at their backs, Nicholas suddenly exclaimed,
"This bridge is a wonder. Who built it, Anne Carraway?"
A father and son gave their lives for it, Nicholas. It was the first of the great bridges across the East River, and John Roebling, whose dream it was to build it, had to fight his way, inch by inch, for the chance to try to do something that had never been done before, something that all engineers of his time called visionary and impractical. And while John Roebling kept on fighting for his dream, he kept his courage high by reading Emerson and playing the flute. The man who built Brooklyn Bridge on paper was a philosopher and a musician of rare skill, as well as an architect and an engineer.
"Where did John Roebling come from?"
asked Nicholas.
"Out of a little walled town in Germany,"
replied Anne Carraway.
"His mother buried her own dreams there years before he was born. But when she saw that her youngest son was different from other boys, she worked early and late to give him the education she knew he would need to make his dreams come true. She sent him first to Berlin to be educated. Then she sent him to America to seek his fortune. He never saw her again. She died soon after he sailed. And with the money his mother gave him, John Roebling bought lands in Pennsylvania and began his life in a new country as a farmer. The very first thing he did was to raise canary birds. But in a few years, he was building suspension bridges over the Pennsylvania Canal, over the Allegheny River, over the Delaware and Hudson Canals, across the Niagara, the Kentucky, the Ohio, and finally the East River. And it was while he was making the soundings for the piers of Brooklyn Bridge that John Roebling was fatally injured and died, leaving his son to carry out his cherished plans.
"He was lucky to have a son who could build a bridge like that,"
said Nicholas.
"John Roebling was as fortunate in his son as he was in his mother,"
said Anne Carraway as they walked along on the Brooklyn side.
Not long after his father's death, Washington Roebling was so injured that he became an invalid. But although he was unable to leave his room, for 10 long years, from the upper windows of his home over here on Columbia Heights, he watched and directed the construction of the bridge.
"Washington Roebling must have had very strong spyglasses and a telescope,"
said Nicholas, as they stood looking at Brooklyn Bridge from the foot of Montague Street.
"And faith in his father's dream,"
said Anne Carraway.
"We'll be just in time for the sunset if we turn back now."
The silver lights on the harbor had turned to red and gold when they walked out over the bridge of the magic web again. The sun was rolling a great ball of fire down behind the Statue of Liberty, and distant windows flashed like jewels.
"Look, look quick, Anne Carraway!"
cried Nicholas.
"The goblins are riding over Manhattan Bridge tonight. There they go, there they go. Some in taxis and some in trolleys,"
he shouted as shiny black motors and trolley cars turned to gold midway of the bridge. Suddenly, below the flying stream of golden motors, a long, glittering train appeared and ran swiftly across the bridge.
"The Fairy Mountain Limited, Nicholas,"
said Anne Carraway as they stood watching it out of sight. Then, as the sun dipped down, down, over the water's edge, Nicholas ran on toward Manhattan, calling,
"There goes the sunset gone on Governor's Island, and the blink light on Robin's Reef. I see a light in the high tower. I see another light, and another, and another. Come along, Anne Carraway, it's lighting up time."
Straight ahead on one side of Brooklyn Bridge rose the high tower, and on the other side the city tower, and in one after another of their many windows The lights now began to shine. Nicholas waited for Anne Carroway at the top of the steps leading down to the incline, and together they plunged down, down, under the dingy old terminal where they could no longer see the lighted windows of the high towers. But as they walked swiftly on across all the trolley tracks, they saw, as if framed in the distance, a lovely old palace, the snow lying soft and white about it.
There's the City Hall,
called Nicholas delightedly.
It looks just like a fairy palace from here. I think it's the prettiest building in New York.
When they stepped out into City Hall Park, the silver crescent of a little new moon stood above the old clock tower, and the snow-covered roof and pillars were tinged with the rosy afterglow of the sunset. Beyond the Bowery.
The toy box opens when the sun goes down,
said Anne Carroway.
We must hurry up to Grand Street, and there isn't a taxi in sight.
I see something better than a taxi,
cried Nicholas.
There's a sleigh waiting for us out there on Broadway. It's one of the old uncles down from Harlem. He's lighting his tin lantern to hang out behind. He sees us. He's turning his horse round. Hurry up, Aunt Carroway.
And waving his spyglasses to the jolly black driver of the funny old sleigh, Nicholas ran across City Hall Park and jumped in. By the time Anne Carroway reached the sleigh, Nicholas had put away his spyglasses and pulled out his Liberty flashlight to show to Uncle Rastus.
What brought you all the way from Harlem to City Hall at sundown, Uncle Rastus?
Anne Carroway asked as they jingled up Park Row.
I most generally rides down the island on a pretty day like this,
replied the driver, and then he whispered to Nicholas, who was standing up to look all round.
I never goes up Broadway till the goblins cross the river. They's just gone along, honey.
I know they have. We saw them,
cried Nicholas, and down one of the shadowy streets he saw the bridge of the magic web once more against a red gold sky.
I hear music, Uncle Erastus, right over our heads, but I can't see anybody playing anywhere. Where does it come from? Oh, now I see. There's a fiddler up there on the stairs of the L station. Where are we, Anne Carroway?
Crossing Chatham Square,
said she.
The Arabian Nights country begins right here, Nicholas, and rims east and west to the river. Sinbad the sailor comes by Catherine Slip whenever he's in port, and Aladdin lights his old lamp down here every night in the year. Drive up on the Bowery, Uncle Rastus.
Looking over into strange streets on one side, Nicholas could see Chinamen shuffling in and out of queer little shops, and past tall tea-houses whose oriental balconies were hung with Chinese flags and colored lanterns. A Chinese baby boy toddled round the corner of Mott and Pell Streets and was quickly caught up in his father's arms.
He's all dressed up, just like he's a little old Chinaman,
said Uncle Rastus.
It's his birthday, I reckon.
And then, far down a street on the other side, an Italian band began to play, and looking back, Nicholas saw the doors of dingy old houses open, and the children come rushing out, hundreds of dark-eyed, laughing children, and mothers with gay shawls over their heads and babies in their arms. Oliver Street came alive with children carrying long white candles and bright lanterns, with fathers waving American flags and Italian banners. Church doors swung open, and as one gay company passed in, another came out, leaving their candles burning.
It's a festal. They're keeping a festal,
shouted Nicholas, and he leaned far out of the sleigh for another glimpse of gay streets strung with colored lights and long bright streamers. As Uncle Rastus turned east on Canal Street, they were caught in a jam of traffic, and Nicholas, looking clear across Manhattan Bridge, whispered in the driver's ear,
There's where the Golden Goblins ride. Uncle Rastus, drive faster, please. It's getting dark, and we mustn't be late for the toy shop.
Then, from the frying pans above the push-carts, Blue-green lights began to flare out over the snowy streets, and along the curb bright fires blazed up in old tin pails and iron pots.
I smell chestnuts roasting,
shouted Nicholas.
I hear them whistling, too.
I smell something better'n chestnuts roasting when you're hungry,
said Uncle Rastus.
Inside that old tin oven on wheels over yonder on the sidewalk, there's a big mealy yellow sweet tater roasting away till it cracks for Uncle Rastus. Has yer got the smell of sweet tater yet, Nicholas?
He chuckled.
I don't guess you has 'em in your country.
Nicholas was beaming as he sniffed the air.
I smell your sweet potato roasting, Uncle Rastus,
he cried.
It smells good, but mine smells better. I'll tell the potato man.
Does yer like oysters on the half-shell?
asked Uncle Rastus as a push-cart of oysters crossed the street in front of them.
Somebody on the next corner is stopping the oyster man,
said Nicholas.
They're having a little party over there. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, standing around the pushcart, eating oysters. It's like a picnic. Where do all the crowds of people come from, Anne Carraway?
From their own little towns and villages and farms across the sea,
replied Anne Carraway.
They come here straight from the ship, Nicholas. They've been coming for 300 years.
Do they bring the pushcarts with them?
asked Nicholas.
No, they bring only their dreams for their children with them. They find the pushcarts all about here, right where the Knickerbockers' farms and gardens and orchards and duck ponds used to be.
A pushcart piled high with golden oranges, with a little cowbell dangling from it, moved out from Orchard Street just then.
It must be fun to have a pushcart of your own with a cowbell on it,
said Nicholas, gazing wistfully down that fascinating street.
What would you sell on yours, Uncle Rastus, if you had one?
He asked.
I'd sell red flannels and nice warm blankets in winter-time, just like that one,
said Uncle Rastus, as another pushcart, laden with bright-colored blankets, with a line of red flannel undershirts waving high above it, passed close beside the sleigh.
There's the prettiest baby girl, fast asleep on those blankets,
exclaimed Nicholas.
Her father and mother must be taking her home to put her to bed. Look, Anne Carraway, they've stopped to put some money in the crippled organ grinder's cup. He's playing another tune. It's sadder than the one he played before. Do they always play sad tunes down here, Uncle Rastus?
No, indeedy, honey,
exclaimed Uncle Rastus.
You'll hear the hurdy-gurdy man playing very lively when spring comes riding up East River. He sets all the children dancing in the streets round here.
What would you sell on your pushcart in summertime, Uncle Rastus?
I'd sell ice cream comes in summer,
said Uncle Rastus.
Till I got rich, then I'd buy one of these here carousels and hitch my old Job up to it and be a penny ride man. Old Job stand anywheres without hitching. He likes standing and he likes chillin'. I give free penny rides to all the children who has no pennies when I'm a penny ride man.
It'll be lots of fun,
said Nicholas.
I'd like to be a penny ride man myself, but I haven't any horse.
We're coming to the playhouse now, Uncle Rastus,
said Anne Carraway at the corner of Pitt Street. Old Job stopped in front of a red brick house with white trimmings, green shutters, green doors, and little fir trees on its roof.
Goodbye, Uncle Rastus. Goodbye, Job. Thank you very much. I'm coming up to ride round Harlem with you some day.
Goodbye, Nicholas. Goodbye. I tell my chillun you're surely comin'.
Uncle Rastus called back as Nicholas and Anne Carraway disappeared inside the green door. The toy box.
Has the play begun?
Anne Carraway asked at the box office window.
Almost,
came the reply.
They're holding the curtain for Nicholas. Your seats are right center down front.
Quick, Nicholas, the lights are already off,
whispered Anne Carraway as they entered the theater. It was pitch dark and so still that at first it seemed empty. But as Nicholas ran down the aisle with his flashlight, he saw that the theater was filled with children. The curtain went up just as he slipped into his seat, and the stage was dark as night.
I can't see a thing,
whispered a boy behind Nicholas. But Nicholas could see, and Nicholas saw something that happened there in the darkness. It was the middle of the night in the toy shop, and down from the top shelf of all jumped a strange little figure, who ran lightly across the floor, and touching something in a far corner, ran back to his place again. And then a little phonograph began to play the waking up tunes of all the toys. The lights came on, and the children could see everything that was happening in the toy shop. It was a lovely toy shop. Balloons were hanging up in bunches, and the most wonderful toys came dancing down from the shelves and out of their boxes, just the way you would think they would at a party. Everybody came, a harlequin, 2 elephants, a sparrow, a shepherdess with her lambs, a goose girl with her geese, and a circus rider on her horse. The rag doll, the wooden doll, the Chinese doll, and the paper dolls danced delightfully, and the spinning top was enchanting. But the loveliest dancer of them all was the French doll. The toy soldier was in love with her, and no wonder. Another soldier was in love with her too, and so was the sailor and Jack-in-the-Box. But the French doll liked the toy soldier best, and so did Nicholas. He liked him so much that when the clock struck 4 and the lights grew dim and the dancing stopped, Nicholas felt very sad and lonely, for he thought that he would never see the toy soldier again. But he was mistaken, for just as the curtain fell on the toy shop for the last time, a door beside Nicholas opened, and there stood the toy soldier. Signaling to Nicholas to follow, he disappeared from the doorway and ran back into the toy shop. Behind the toy shop, Nicholas slipped out of his seat and, closing the door behind him, ran after the toy soldier. The toy shop was quite deserted. Only the balloons were hanging there in the dim light, and in the far corner the little phonograph stood strangely silent.
Where are they? Where have they all gone?
Gasped Nicholas, as he clattered across the stage in his wooden shoes.
The Queen of Hearts sent me to bring you to the party in her garden, Nicholas. It's over the roof. That's where the others have gone. This is the way they went.
And taking Nicholas by the hand, the toy soldier ran with him out of the toy shop by another door and up the long stairway to the roof.
See all our tracks in the snow?
He whispered as they stepped out under the stars.
We're right over the theater now. And now we're over the stage. They ran over our heads when we came through the toy shop. This is the way to the garden.
And the toy soldier opened a door leading to another stairway.
Would you like to see my dressing room?
He asked.
I share it with the elephants.
2 elephants were just crawling out of their gray, wrinkly skins when Nicholas peeped into the dressing room.
Please wait for us,
they called to the toy soldier.
We're coming to the party for Nicholas.
All right, we'll wait for you,
Nicholas called back. So while they waited for the elephants, the toy soldier led Nicholas into a big shadowy room with every kind of a wonderful costume hanging up in it.
You can be anything you'd like to be when you come in here to play,
the toy soldier explained as they stood there looking around.
Why, Nicholas, I thought you were lost, and so I came out to find you.
A sweet voice murmured in his ear, and when Nicholas looked up, the Queen of Hearts was standing close beside him. The Queen of Hearts. She was dressed all in white, but instead of a gold crown she wore a wreath of scarlet berries on her soft brown hair, and over her shoulders a silken scarf of cherry scarlet. On her feet were golden shoes, and from her girdle hung a bunch of slender golden keys. Nicholas thought her face was one of the loveliest he had ever seen, and when she gave one hand to him and the other to the toy soldier, he was radiantly happy.
"Do you live here?"
he asked as they walked out of the room where all the costumes were hanging.
Yes, I live here,
replied the Queen of Hearts.
Would you like to look into my toy room?
And she fitted one of the golden keys into the lock of a door they were passing.
There's everything and more here,
said the Queen of Hearts, and when the lights came on, Nicholas found himself in a perfectly fascinating room with a big Russian fireplace.
The toys come from every country in the world,
said the toy soldier.
We have wonderful times playing with them, but we can't stop to play now. We're going to a party.
"We must wait for the elephants,"
said Nicholas.
"I promised we would. Do you think they can find us?"
he asked the Queen of Hearts as they walked on down the dim corridor.
I'm sure they can,
she replied, and then she said,
Now I'll show you the most wonderful toy of all.
And she unlocked the door of another room. It was quite dark, and when Nicholas raised his Liberty flashlight, he saw that it was a very small room with but one toy in it, a toy theater.
It's just like the big theater downstairs,
explained the toy soldier.
There are red, white, and blue lights, and when I turn them on, you can see any fairy tale you'd like to see.
"I'd like to see the tinderbox,"
said Nicholas. No sooner were the words out of his mouth than the lights flashed, and a soldier with his knapsack on his back and a saber by his side came marching across the little stage, 1, 2, 1, 2, straight past the old witch who stood beside the hollow tree. The soldier had let himself down into the mysterious hall inside the tree, and was just unlocking the third door, behind which was the strange-eyed dog who guarded the chest of gold, when the two elephants came running in. They were out of their skins now, and could clap their hands with delight when the old witch drew the soldier up out of the tree, with pockets, boots, knapsack, and cap full of shining gold pieces. And after that, the soldier cut off the head of the witch, and put the tinder box in his pocket, and marched off the stage.
There isn't time to finish the play,
said the Queen of Hearts,
for I hear the children calling Nicholas in the garden.
So the toy soldier turned off the lights of the toy theater, and the Queen of Hearts locked the door of the little room, and they walked on down the dim corridor.
"It must be fun to have a little theater like that,"
said Nicholas wistfully.
"Have you had it long?"
Not so very long,
said the Queen of Hearts.
But I've dreamed of having it ever since I knew Hans Andersen had one. The playhouse is a dream, too, an old, old dream, Nicholas, for it stands on an old Dutch farm. There was an orchard, and a garden with tulips, and green fields where the wild strawberries grew. The Dutch boys and girls used to have strawberry picnics here, and the English girls and boys hung May baskets to each other at the doors of the old houses in Henry Street. And then, Nicholas, all the other children came with their songs and their dances and their festivals. It's just the place for a playhouse, you see. Everybody comes back to play here.
"I'm coming back, too,"
exclaimed Nicholas.
"I'm coming often."
The Valentine. The toy soldier disappeared down a steep stairway, and throwing open a door at the bottom, he called,
Nicholas is coming! Nicholas is coming! Nicholas is coming with the Queen of Hearts and the elephants!
And then such shouts went up.
Nicholas! Nicholas! We want to see Nicholas!
Here he
comes Nicholas!
Here comes Nicholas!
The rag doll, the paper dolls, the wooden doll, and the French doll danced out through the garden to meet him, and the roly-poly and the little lucky pup rolled over and over with joy. The shepherdess, the goose girl, the circus rider in spangles, the jack-in-the-box, and all the others rushed to welcome Nicholas with shouts of
Valentine! Valentine! Nicholas is our Valentine!
Suddenly Nicholas caught sight of Harlequin perched up beside the sparrow on the railing of the little balcony.
I know who you are,
shouted Nicholas.
You're the one who waked up all the others in the toy shop. Come down here. I want to play with you.
Down from the balcony capered Harlequin, and then such handsprings as he and Nicholas and the toy soldier turned in the Queen of Hearts' garden.
I've never seen a garden like this one before,
said Nicholas, as they all three sat on a high-backed green seat which Harlequin told Nicholas could turn itself into a table whenever it wanted to.
An artist made the garden for us. I think it's a pretty one, don't you?
I like the cottage with the straw roof and the green wooden shutters best of all,
said Nicholas.
It looks like a fairy tale house. What's inside, Harlequin?
Just you wait and you'll see,
replied Harlequin.
It's a secret.
Jack-in-the-Box is rubbing his stomach over there, by the fire. Are you hungry, Nicholas?
asked the toy soldier. Nicholas beamed and waved his hand to Jack-in-the-Box.
Fee-fi-fo-fum, I smell tea without any rum,
sang Harlequin.
It's Russian tea. I'll fetch you a glass.
And Harlequin ran over to the corner where the big copper samovar stood. He was back again in a jiffy, with tall glasses of amber-colored tea with thin slices of lemon and a gay bowl of cut sugar. And as Nicholas and the toy soldier sat there sipping their hot Russian tea, Nicholas suddenly spied Anne Carraway at one of the tables, half hidden by a tall fir tree.
She's talking to someone behind that tree,
said Nicholas.
Oh, now I see who it is. It's the sailor. He must have brought Anne Carraway over the roof.
The sailor slipped out from behind the tree just then, and throwing a log of driftwood on the fire, he began to dance a hornpipe. And Nicholas, watching him, forgot to drink his Russian tea, forgot the strange garden, forgot even the toy soldier beside him. Suddenly the sailor stopped dancing. The green shutters on the thatched cottage flew open, and the French doll leaned out with a tray of cherry tarts.
The Queen of Hearts, she made some tarts, all on St. Valentine's Day. All for you, Nicholas, all for you,
she called. A second pair of shutters flew open, and out leaped the circus rider, with both hands full of gingerbread boys, and after her the wooden doll came clattering by, with a pewter plate of Dutch cakes for Nicholas. Then the shepherdess and the goose girl brought great platters piled high with heart-shaped sandwiches for everybody. When the third pair of shutters flew open, the little Chinese doll hopped out, with a basket of almond cakes and tiny oranges and strange nuts with plums in them. And from the last window of all, the two paper dolls stepped cautiously down, bearing a marvelous Valentine cake for Nicholas. Everybody had put in the thing they thought he would like best. Everybody had given it a stir, and the result was truly remarkable.
Nicholas wants to dance with everyone before he cuts his cake,
said the toy soldier, and turning to Nicholas, he whispered,
It's a dream cake, you know.
So Harlequin leaped up into the balcony where the flowers were and played the Nicholas dance. It began like an old Dutch jig, but it kept changing and changing as Nicholas changed partners, until at last he danced with the lovely Queen of Hearts. The music grew very soft and dreamlike then, and they seemed to be sailing away and away to one country after another.
We're in China now, and the little nightingale is singing in the Emperor's garden,
murmured the Queen of Hearts. And then, in the balcony right above their heads, the sparrow began to chirp and twitter, the lambs to call "ma, ma," the geese to hiss and splutter, the circus rider's horse to neigh, and the toy soldier, the sailor, and the elephants, the jack-in-the-box, the French doll, the wooden doll, the rag doll, and all the others began to dance in a ring round Nicholas and the Queen of Hearts, shouting,
Nicholas is our Valentine!
Nicholas is our Valentine!
He's coming every year!
Then Nicholas knew it was time to go home. So, while they all stood round, he cut the Valentine dream cake, and everyone slept that night with a piece of it under his pillow. End of chapter 15.